Good morning. Today, on the line with us, we have Aaron Burgess. Am I saying the last name right? That Burgess,
Yeah, you are.
you would think after all the classes we've had together, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
And Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were part of our full stack, excuse me, our web software developer degree. That is that the
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I
and
was kind of part of the old program at first, and then I had to just kind of do the new stuff later. But yeah, I was part of the IT web developer program, and they changed it a little, and it took me a little longer to graduate, but at the same time, I learned new skills and things were great. It helped me a lot with my tutoring. So
when did you graduate exactly? Was it a year ago or 2 years ago?
I think it was technically 2 years ago now, I think, because I think it was 2018, and then in the fall I still was taking some classes, but it was more like just an extracurricular for me. I just wanted more time in school, so I just did that. Um, and then I just ended up getting 2 associate's degrees just like that. So that was fun.
And which two did you end up with? Did you end up with a software degree also, or
Yeah, I did. I ended up with both the first one and the second one.
fantastic?
Hmm.
I mean, and that's great because those are things that people can never take away from you. I always tell people that that's the thing about schooling is once you've earned that degree
Yeah,
and it's on a transcript. I mean, and now you have a credential that can follow you around, and that
yeah,
and that's no small thing. And
no.
some people will tell you that degrees are a dime a dozen. Everybody's got them.
Hmm.
If you actually look at the numbers, folks, that's not the case.
Right. Yeah,
It's actually a pretty small percentage of the population that has them. So
yeah.
that's why it always gives you a leg up. So Aaron,
Mhm.
what I'm going to do is I'll bring up Gateway's like Learning Success Center page. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization and how you got into
Sure.
it and what you do for people?
Okay. So as a I'm a tutor, and that's like a very small part of what the Learning Success Center does. The Learning Success Center is where students come for either working on homework and getting help from it, accessing study skills and textbooks that to rent out to basically help them out with school if they can't get the textbook or it's on back order or whatever. We have textbooks that for them to use. In the Learning Success Center, we have computers to work on. And the Learning Success Center also helps with disability support, with ELL, ABE, which are like transitioning from like doing high school or doing their GED program. We're doing that as well. For Spanish speaking people, if they need to learn English, we learn with that. So that's basically what a big part of what the Learning Success Center is. It's a very big place for us to help students get to where they need to be and help them towards getting their degree also, because it's not easy just jumping into this. Sometimes it's a little accelerated and you're like, whoa, 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 slow down. When in the us tutors help with that as well as helping with other services as well.
Would you say now you focus mostly on actually doing IT tutoring, right? Do you do other
Yeah,
general tutoring or is it just IT?
so I focus on IT tutoring specifically, but I have over the year or so that I've been working with them, I have learned a little bit about computers for professionals and helping with like accessing Word or PowerPoint or stuff like that. That was very simple for me because I've done that before. And that helps with like if you've never learned how to use Word before, I can help you with that. Um, and like specifically IT web design. I mean, but then all of a sudden I learned how to do C# and Python all in the same year, so that was fun too. So I learned a lot while I've been helping these students, and even though I specifically know web development, that's my key area, I can also help in other areas as well. So
Do you find that people come in when they learn how cool this place is, basically, how helpful it is?
yeah,
Do you find that they start to come in regularly once they take away the stigma of like I'm going in for tutoring? Uh,
right. Yeah. No, yes they do, and sometimes I come in to see specific people. Like if say they are really struggling with math and they finally, I said, okay, I need a tutor. And when they get to a tutor that they like, they just continue to come. And that's what's really great about this place, is that you get to either find one that works really great with you and you keep working with them and stuff like that. It's like, there's no reason why you shouldn't try and get a tutor. Even though even myself, when I was in web development, I said, I don't need a tutor. I can just go to Ty. You can answer my questions. No, it's really helpful. I regret doing that to you, Ty. I should have went to go see someone sooner.
Oh, that Aaron, it's never a bother. The problem I get is I just run out of time to see
Yeah.
everybody. I mean, that's basically what happens. So if I have like so much time between classes, I do need to, like,
Mm-hmm.
have a sandwich and hit the bathroom once in a while too. So, um, but I spend like a good portion of my day,
Mm-hmm.
when we're, in normal mode, like on campus, so like in
Mm-hmm.
between either online or physical classes, um,
Mm-hmm.
doing one-on-one appointments with students. Um,
Yeah.
but sometimes, excuse me, sometimes people come in and, they're new to school. They've never done college before
Mm-hmm.
properly, or they have, when, like, my experience was, is I went to school and it left a really bad taste in my mouth because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I was part of anything. I really didn't have a purpose, except, I could go on for a while about why
Right.
it didn't work for me. But
Mm-hmm.
it's when I figured out how to get into the groove of doing the work
Mm-hmm.
that you start to succeed. So whether you like it or not, when you're in college, you have to turn stuff in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you do.
I don't know what's happened in society where there must be a new way of teaching people in the high schools or something, where sometimes they come in
Yeah.
and they're not in that workflow of getting work turned in on a regular basis. Now,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what class you're in, every class kind of has this pace to it, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like how the teacher gives the assignments and when you need to get them in. And
Right.
the problem that we get, and you know this pretty well, Aaron, being
Yeah.
on the receiving end of the assignments, is you
Yes.
get those due dates, and
Yep.
then it's like, oh my God, I have questions and it's due tomorrow and I'm not going to be able to ask during class, and I'm afraid to ask the
Yeah.
teacher. And I know that afraid to ask the teacher part is kind of problematic. So, and then I get people in one camp or the other. They're afraid to ask me, or
Yeah.
the flip side, they ask me about every single like mouse click they make, which is, and
Which
now,
is what I did, and I apologize.
but you know what, Aaron, how else do you really learn?
Yeah,
Now you're
exactly.
on the receiving end of that, which is kind of like an interesting turnabout in a sense, right?
Right.
Um,
And I've learned so much. It's really helpful to me to learn from the student. What are they learning and what can I do to help? So, and I really do encourage students to come and see either me or Kevin, because we both have taken the classes before. We know what they are, and it's not anything that we can't handle. We absolutely understand that due dates are important. That, you know, if you're stuck on one thing, maybe you're just missing a semicolon, for crying out loud, I can find it. So it's really not a bother to me. I think it's really a big thing that you are actually able to come and see us at the Learning Success Center, especially now because we're virtually online. All of us are, including for math, English, and writing. There's, let's see, what else do we have? We have nursing students, we have accounting, we have everything that we can possibly give you on our online platform. And we probably won't be coming back until the fall. So anytime we're available is usually from like 10 to 1:30 to 4:30. And sometimes we have some late night times, which is 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So,
and we do get the students, our programs, a lot of our IT programs,
mm-hmm.
unbeknownst to the people in these Zoom sessions, we are pretty evening focused.
Right. Yeah, I've
Software
noticed that.
program, the web program are evening programs. Then the other ones, it depends on which campus and which time you
Mm-hmm.
sign up. But we do get that aspect. The big thing, of course, with web developers is our program's mostly online.
Yes.
Even when things are normal about you know, 2/3 to 3/4, you know, somewhere like around 70% of our students take our courses online.
Yeah.
And Aaron, did you start that way?
Did I start online? I'm trying to remember. I remember having one meeting with you at some point, and it was like I met you for the first time. I was like, okay, so this is an actual teacher. I'm not talking to a robot. Um, and I was having a lot of difficulty in Web 1. So I was just like, okay, where am I going and what am I doing? So yes, I did have to start out that way. And it's kind of like as soon as like I felt like I knew everything because I took high school courses and I was like, I can do this. This is no problem. And then I get to the course and I'm like, oh no, I'm missing a couple things here. So, but yes, I did start off that way. Yes, it was very difficult and challenging. I just moved over to in person after that. But at the same time, it's what works for you. If you work better online, that's great. And that means that you can handle a lot of different things. If you have to be in person, that is okay. That's what we're here for. And that's why tutoring is helpful. So yeah.
And, this is kind of more of like I guess a logistical question. I mean, I know right now you guys are all online.
Mm-hmm.
You have somewhere here you have a link to your tutoring service
Yes.
and your schedule. So, um, boy, that's
I
not where I
think
put the
no,
info.
let's go back. You go to yeah, click the learn more one, I think.
There we
Yeah,
go.
you go down and then there's the virtual.
Excuse me.
Yep, there we go.
And then so let's just hypothetically say
Mm-hmm.
today is what, Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
In this time frame, I see that IT is in the list,
Mm-hmm.
and so if I click here, I'll just end up connected to a tutor. Is that what happens? Or
No, we connect to our one of our learning instructors, like our learning success instructors. They will guide you towards the right tutor for you. So let's say we are actually put in breakout rooms, so we can be one-on-one with the student. So she guides you to the right tutor. Because we have like maybe 10 or so tutors in the same meeting, so we have to be guided with what student is there. So and they can come in for any subject, math, English, even IT. So and when it's IT, it's usually me or Kevin. So that's what you're probably going to get.
and you're kind of answering one of my other questions. So at this point, you and Kevin are the two IT tutors that are out there. There's nobody
Yeah,
else.
as far as I know, I don't remember if anybody else is available during the summer or not for IT, but that is what I'm aware of.
Wasn't Chris Sloan tutoring with you guys too? Or
I think
maybe not.
so, maybe last semester, but I don't
Yeah.
remember.
No, Chris is a longtime graduate too, and he works, I think, over at Jockey now
Okay.
full time. Are you know, and maybe this is a little personal. I know that a lot of the tutors come here, and this is like uh,
Hmm.
either either a part-time or full-time gig for you guys. I'm not sure what the status is, but like with Chris, for example,
Hmm.
he'd been working at Jockey even when he was a student,
Hmm.
um, but that's his like full-time gig. And then if he was tutoring, it was just like part-time pickup stuff.
Right.
Um, and I don't know like what Kevin and you guys are up to. And I always like say, well, if you guys aren't working full-time in IT, oh my God, you guys, you totally should be. Not that we don't appreciate your tutoring services, but um, you know, I always like to say, you know, you should go out in the field proper and earn you know, a big wage, you know, because the jobs are out there right now.
Yeah, I know. It's been kind of difficult for me to just I mean, I've been looking at everything, even like it's just yeah, I'm still thinking about everything too. Because I kind of went to a spell where I was like, I want to do this, but at the same time, I want to do other things too. So I'm not sure. So I stuck with the tutoring part for now. So I like doing it. It's actually really helping me and continue to learn and actually keep my brain working, because I don't want to forget any of this information, so if I don't use it, I'll lose it. That's
Right.
determined.
And then the other option is you could always step up to a four-year institution if it comes
Mm-hmm.
down to it. So like if you, decide at some point to continue your education, now you're poised to work on a four-year degree with a solid two-year degree under you. And I think that's important too. Um, Aaron, one last question that I have. When you do get IT people that come in, I know you guys probably get busier, like when midterms roll around and like
Mm-hmm.
that last week or two before the semester ends, all of a sudden people remember that they have stuff to turn in
Right.
and things.
What do I say to them?
And I'm just really kind of curious also, like, what is like the number one or some of the top things that people struggle with when they come in IT? Like what are they usually asking for help with?
A lot of times it's just instruction. It's sometimes when they are in the class, they feel like maybe either the teacher's going too fast, or the book isn't necessarily helpful, or that what they're working on is not necessarily giving the right answer. I have to kind of put them in the right direction sometimes, because they get confused a lot of time with instruction a lot. Otherwise, they know what they're doing. It's just how they get to the answer and get towards what is the right answer. And it depends, really. I never really had any problems with, like, they don't know how to do certain things unless that's like their first time doing like intro to programming or intro to web. If they don't know anything up until that point, I can try to basically give some vocabulary, maybe give them some idea of how this works. I can even show them my past work, stuff like that.
I think, yeah, that seems like it would be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hey,
yeah,
Ty.
I always like wonder, like I've seen a couple of people, that kind of resonate in my head that I know went for tutoring and how much of a difference it made for them as they would do it. And I think that if people struggle, I think with basic computing skills, and like, and I always tell people, everybody knows how, like, if you can sit down anybody in front of a computer pretty much, and they're like clicking away on Facebook or email or Amazon pretty quickly. Those are
Yeah.
kind of basic things to do through a browser. But when it comes to like, well, here's your file, where are you putting it? Or, it's like the mechanics of like actually doing the IT aspect of it that people sometimes are not well versed in or never learned,
Yeah. No, it's hard to just kind of up and do. I get that. I try to help with organization as well, because sometimes I've run into the problem where everybody does all the code, right? And then the way it's spaced out, it's either like really scrunched together, or I can't read it. Like, I can't find the problem. It needs to be like spaced out for me, because that's how I did it. I had to space out my code so I could read it. So there's that as well.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. I'm a big fan of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Use your screen space wisely and make it apparent,
Mm-hmm.
and put a lot of comments in your code, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you're doing stuff. I think that's helpful too.
Did your students have any questions for me?
That's exactly where I was going next. You're reading my mind. Lisa or Justin, do you have any questions at all for Aaron?
Justin has 2 questions in chat. That's why I raised my hand a while back.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes I pay attention and sometimes I don't.
It's all right.
So let's see the questions that are in chat here.
Hi, Aaron. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome.
Hi.
Thanks for being on here today. So while you were kind of looking around and deciding, did you find that there was a need for web people?
Yeah, there definitely was. I was searching around because I was kind of getting stuck. I was not really sure what I wanted to do yet, and I was like, well, I have all this knowledge. I want to use it. So where do I go? And I thought, okay, is there any tutoring available for Elkhorn or Kenosha campus? What? So I ended up in Elkhorn, and they're like an appointment only type of place, and they don't do like walk-ins or anything like that. It's a smaller campus. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So I go in, I do the interview, and I got the job. So I was like, oh, cool. But at first I didn't get anybody because it was like summer semester and there was like it's a lower semester to be a part of. But once I got into fall, there was more people looking for a Python tutor. Did I know anything about Python at the time? No, but I learned very quickly and it worked out. And it also helps with understanding that I knew a little bit of software in the beginning of it. So taking extracurricular as well as being a part of the web program helped a lot, being like a web tutor. So it really did help.
And then also because I am a big fan of teaching and like kind of mentoring and all that stuff. So
Sure.
let's say after I get done with my 15-week bender here and I find myself a job, do they encourage past students to come in and tutor maybe after work as like a side thing? Like, hey, I want to give back to Gateway. Is that a thing, or is that not really? Like, what's your opinion, or what's the kind of the ballpark on what Gateway feels about that?
They definitely are okay with having, current students and past students come in for certain needs. I'm not exactly sure what, it depends on what they need in the tutoring aspect. So let's say we have a bunch of tutors at one campus and a bunch of tutors at another campus. It depends on who they have has tutors. Let's say they have like 4 math tutors, for example, and there's a person that's looking to be one. They might say no because they already have 4. We have to basically kind of balance out like who's done math and who has enough. Do we have enough IT support? Do we have enough support here? It depends on that. They definitely do encourage though that, and help others out there that are looking to help teach. But at the same time, I'm not sure. It depends on the need. So
Do you have like volunteer tutors? Justin, is that kind of what you're leaning towards?
That's where I'm kind of, like, do they like, well, I'm not necessarily looking for like, for a little extra cash. I'm actually saying, hey, I'm going to be interface ninja at one point or another here. I would like to give back to, the college. Is that something that they would encourage, or is that something like, meh?
Well, as far as I know, we don't do volunteer tutoring. All of our tutors are paid, so I'm unsure about that.
That's an interesting question, Justin. Because honestly, I have been, like, when I was doing my 4-year degree, the school that I went to, they had a tutoring department too, and frankly, a lot of people were kind of embarrassed to go to it. And the reason is because it was like you're walking through the door and there's a sign that says tutoring, which kind of like a lot of people equate to like, okay, dumb people enter here.
That's not true at all. No. It's just for help.
And I know that's kind of, that's totally not the stigma at Gateway at all. That's not how.
No,
but
all.
Where I went to school, it was kind of looked at that way. However, what they did have that was really cool, aside from like the professionals that they had in there, right? And a lot of times it was teachers or in a university setting, teaching assistants, like grad students, earning money basically. But they also had a whole bunch of people that would just kind of show up there and hang out. And like, well, so-and-so's busy, but you can talk to so-and-so. And people would just volunteer their services, and I don't know if it was like a stipulation of like their financial aid or whatever, but it didn't seem like it was on the books, and it was kind of on a volunteer basis. But learning,
right? And I've never heard of Gateway doing something like that before.
No, but what a kind of interesting thought, though. That would be
it is. Yeah, that would be kind of cool, honestly.
It's just kind of the giving back, because like I said, as we're going through this, and Aaron and Ty, if you go ahead and chime in, it's the fact that we're learning this is pretty gold here. There's a lot of gold here, and it's not necessarily, it's also kind of tribal knowledge too, as well as, and that's where it kind of like, well, if I could help somebody achieve whatever, it's like, because it's like, why should I have all this information, not necessarily have to, you have to go take all these classes if I know something that maybe Ty doesn't or you don't, Aaron. That's just kind of how I look at it. But that's just me being me. So
No, it's totally cool.
One of the interesting correlations though with all, this like thought, Justin, of giving back, right? I look at all the instructors that we have at Gateway, and I mean, I can just kind of go person by person. So look at like, all the people that we've hired, right? Jerry Gifford, for example, right? He teaches in the CSS program, Gateway grad. Heather Miles teaches also in the CSS program, Gateway grad.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Nelson, Gateway grad. Mary
Yeah.
Baldwin, Gateway grad. So I can go on. And I think like basically Christian, Christopher, and Saad and me, I think are the only ones that are not Gateway grads that teach for Gateway. And I think that kind of says a lot too. And the thing that always resonates with me, and here I was last night, I'm tasked with building up some servers, and I was chatting with my one of my good friends who is a sysadmin and at one of our district high schools, and he was just giving me some tips, and I'm like, I always forget, and the guy's name is Miko, and I said, Miko, I always forget you were a Gateway grad too. He goes, yeah, he goes, everybody that works in IT in this area is a Gateway grad. And so we do get those people that do want to come back, and sometimes they end up like adjunct teaching for us, and sometimes they end up doing what Aaron's doing, or
Yeah.
or full-blown teachers, and I think that's fantastic when so I don't have any other thoughts, and we did talk about tutoring the other day, Aaron, a little bit.
Yeah.
I keep pushing it on people, and I don't know how much it resonates with them, but like I have like some individuals where I will actually pull them aside, and say, I'm helping you out with this, and I see you're still struggling. You should visit the tutors.
Yeah.
However, do you know anything about this like brain fuse tutoring thing that we have in Blackboard?
Yes. So I only used it maybe once or twice, and when I was actually a student here. It's another way we can help you. It's paid by the school, so Brain Fuse is like one of those things where it gives you either a actual online person to talk to, or it gives you videos to help out with certain subjects. It's been a while since I've used it though, so but it is there just in case like none of us are around, which is kind of hard not to be because we have so many shifts that we have. But let's say it's early in the morning and you're an early bird and you need to get some help, and you don't want to wait, maybe using Brain Freeze would help, and getting somebody else to help you, that's totally fine. It's paid for by the school, so that and Lynda, that can help as well. So
and we call it Lynda, right? So you see in our core shells, I often leave the link in there.
Yeah.
Lynda.com, which is a video course tutorial site that really focuses on technology mostly, is now called LinkedIn Learning. And yes, associated with the professional network called LinkedIn, and now owned by Microsoft. But that's a great source for getting like video guidance. This is
especially
actually,
if you're hands-on learning like me.
But Brain Fuse is actually an online tutoring service. Now, from what I've heard from students, and I was kind of waiting to see if you were going to reiterate this, is it's not really good for programming. Like they have stuff like
yes,
like English,
it
math,
isn't.
history. That
Yeah,
kind of
it's
stuff.
good for basics. It might help with a little bit on web maybe, but it's probably not the best for programming, as far as I know. But
Or you might end up with somebody who knows like Java, for example, but doesn't know
yeah.
what the heck like I'm teaching or Saad is teaching, for example.
Yeah.
So,
But like I said, we only offer Brain Fuse like as far as you'll know on the tutoring schedule. I think it's mostly in the mornings, maybe past 9 o'clock at night. Yeah, we offer that. But like at 10 o'clock, at 1:30 to 4:30, we are available with the classes that you would normally teach. So.
okay, and it looks like evening wise, IT is only Tuesday and Thursday. Am I seeing that right? Yeah, it seems like that's right.
And that would be Kevin. That would not be me. So.
Okay. Well, Erin, it's so cool to be talking with you again, and
I know.
I,
It's been a while.
it's funny, because I do form, kind of relationships with the people that I end up
Hmm.
teaching in ways. And what I always tell all our graduates and alums
Hmm.
is, once you move on to the next phase of your life, whenever that happens, I mean, life has a way of happening.
Yeah.
I always reach back to us here at Gateway, and we
Hmm.
always love to hear what you're doing.
Hmm.
Um, and anytime you want to talk to any of the students, I think the students um, love to hear from people that have made it through the program. And it's like,
Yeah.
God, here's a person that actually lived.
I
And I know that
wouldn't call it that bad.
really goofy because I've been a student, so I get it. I get
Yeah, I know, I get it. I totally do. I understand the pain of not being able to find out what's wrong. And then you're just sitting there for like an hour trying to work on the program, and you're like, well, everything's correct. What happened? And then it's a semicolon. It's literally a semicolon. I'm like, what? But yes, I've been through it. I understand your pain. I will definitely help you if need be. I've been there. I totally get it.
any sage advice for the students? I mean, in terms of tips that you can give them for hanging with it and being successful.
Honestly, I know like when you first go through this semester and you're kind of thrusted into the program a little bit because you're learning web programming, or you're learning like this like actual the intro to programming and databases part, which is probably part of the software development now. But that first class is always going to be the hardest one because you don't know what you're doing. This is the first one you're going to be kind of unsure where to put your files. You might lose them. You might have a problem. Just trust me on this one. Once you get through the first one, you're good. You're going to be fine for the next couple of classes. And if you still struggle, there's always a tutor. There's always you. There's always a teacher for you. It really, once you get through the first one, it's best if you keep going, because the first one is always going to be the hardest. I know that because I've done it. So, but once you get past the first one, I swear you'll start feeling better about organization. You'll feel better about where to put your files. You won't lose them. You'll actually be able to turn in your stuff on time. And if you do need more time, we are always there for you. So that is my advice. I do think you can get through it. It was really difficult for me at times. I know that, especially with Java 2, because I was with I was in a really, it was really hard for me because I was very busy at the time. I was working like 2 other jobs and I was trying to figure it all out. And I was like, okay, I need to sit down, take my time, and do it. So, but no, it does help that you go through that first class and know how to file share, put that stuff in a place where you know where it's going to be, and you'll be able to find all your stuff and be able to work on it. So.
Do you guys encourage students to use their cloud-based storage, like Google Drive, for example, to store their stuff?
Um, I personally do. It's just a lot of times I also recommend a flash drive as well, just as a backup, because I don't know what, I haven't used the cloud as much. I mean, I have used Google Drive for several things, but I usually use like another flash drive or something like that. So.
Okay. And I know like Kevin, um, he pushes Dropbox a lot, like
Oh,
as
yes.
cloud storage, and he used to amuse me in class because he wouldn't walk in with a flash drive. He would just install Dropbox on whatever computer he sat on, pull down all of his files, and then delete it afterwards. And I always thought that was pretty amusing because most students will walk in with like backpacks and laptops, and he would just walk in, sit down, log in, and go. But we are going to talk about cloud storage some more, you guys, but that's a later topic. Erin, I want to say a huge thank you.
Aw, well, thanks. I really do. I really felt bad not being there on Tuesday, but I'm here now, so.
Well, and what I always try, I mean, I don't always get to pull people in from the LSC into classes, but I do try to encourage our other instructors too, that if they have the opportunity to connect with you guys, that it helps. And
yeah,
I think it's helpful for us to know because you and Kevin both, having been, successful in our programs and being in that position that you guys are in, it carries a lot more weight than if you had just a professional tutor that hadn't done our programs. They really can't relate to what we're doing.
Yeah, I know.
And I think that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Well, Erin, thank you, and have a great day. And
yeah,
any major developments at the LSC, keep us posted.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, we're going to be online for the rest of the semester. It's going to be ending a little earlier this semester, I think. But hopefully we'll be back to doing in person in the fall. It just might be a little bit more like we have to social distance, 6 feet apart, always washing the tables, stuff like that. But we will do our best, and I think we're still going to be able to offer online tutoring as well, because it's really nice to have this Zoom meeting and talk with you while I'm at home or I'm somewhere else or something like that. So it does help our students also, because sometimes you have like a full-time job you're working at and you have like no time to go all the way out to Racine or something like that to do anything. So
Absolutely.
okay.
Thanks, Erin. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
No problem.
So we now that we're done with our guest speaker from the Learning Success Center, hopefully you guys got some valuable insights from that and encouragement to pursue that. I do want to move us over to Unit 5 and talk about what we call gateway subscribed services, and I want to kind of explain what that thing means. All right, so coming back to the topics here, I have basically these 4 things I wanted to talk about, and actually we kind of already covered Brain Fuse, and to kind of piggyback off all the Gateways tutoring services, you'll see like down here in your side margin this Brain Fuse Help Now. I'm actually going to go ahead and click on it and bring it up in a new tab, and it's been a while since I've tried this, but I have experimented with it. So I've come in here and actually chose support, and you see like computers and tech, they really don't get into programming here. So to what degree it's helpful, I can't really say, but they do hypothetically have live tutors that would come on the line and help you with these things. And I've heard kind of mixed results from students. So some people say, yeah, it's not bad. And then some people say, I don't like it. They don't give me any help with the stuff I actually need. But it is a service that we have, so feel free to explore it. The other ones that I think are pretty fascinating really are the video system called Lynda Com. And I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to type in Lynda.com and see if it still comes up. Okay, so they still, have the branding in here, right? So Lynda.com, and then you notice from right underneath it, it says from LinkedIn. And for those of you not aware, and some people are not, so I'd like to think that most people coming into college have maybe been exposed to this, but the reality is that's not always the case. But LinkedIn is a company. It used to be a standalone company that is, I guess, what I would call the social media of working professionals, and especially in the United States, but it is an international thing. Now I do have an account, so I'm just going to go ahead and sign into it. No, I don't want to do all that now. Thank you. And so what LinkedIn is a professional networking platform. So in other words, the people that sign up here tend to be people who are working professionals in any particular field. And now why is this helpful? Well, for example, here's Christian Herr, who is, well, it looks like he's posting some of his video work, which is pretty interesting. But you form a kind of like connections with people that you cross paths with. So for example, I have lots of my coworkers, past students, and other people that work in the industry are part of my network. And you kind of like post like who you are, what you do, and whatever, and you kind of forge connections with people. Now, there are people that use this on a free basis, like I do, where you can kind of get like basic information about people and connect with them and message them and do posts like this. But there are also people that pay for this service and then get deeper access to like deeper search tools and networking tools inside this platform. And there's lots of people who are on the hunt for people with professional level skills. So we're not talking about like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to hire for my gas station clerk position. That's not what you're going to find here. But you will find people that have all sorts of college degrees, all sorts of professional certifications, are, you know, working in the administration of a corporation, you know, people that are, you know, upwardly mobile basically, and they'll post themselves inside here. And then headhunters go through and they look for people. So for example, one of my former students, and actually I think he's technically still a current student, right? He went out there and got a job. He came in here and he, in fact, I could look him up. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. This is him right here. And so Jason was, and I have to check this, but I think he's still an active student, right? So he hasn't graduated yet, but about halfway through his degree, ended up getting a fantastic job with a company out of California, but operating in Racine, and then, you know, making some really good money. And then I think just recently completed his project with that. And I don't know if he was contracted or a full-time employee, and then got a job with somebody else. And he said that all he did is he came in here and he added, aside from just saying web developer, he added the word full stack. And it was this word here, this technology, that he ended up picking up. One of the ones in her certificate, by the way, that he just said he put it up here, changed the title or whatever it says right there. And then within a week, he had multiple job offers. And if you guys remember this story, you know, he got like, I think he got like 30 to 40K over what he was already making. And I think that was already in the six-figure range. And mind you guys, this is all without a degree. So this kind of interesting, but that's the kind of thing that happened. He didn't go out there and solicit it. He just changed this and the headhunters on LinkedIn found him. All right, so let's leave that alone. That's LinkedIn, and we're going to kind of revisit that later again in this course. But let's take a look at Lynda.com. And you know, I've encountered Lynda, and I think I told you guys this. I would do like a searching. I do a Google search on like, how do I blank, 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 you know, and throw in some code statement or something. And you'd often end up on YouTube watching like a 3 or 5 minute video or something. And then you would look in the sidebar and say, oh, that's from Lynda.com. It's like really like professionally done. And I want you to look just like right here, you know, like one of their big areas, obviously. Okay, so software development, web development. They have over, not 700 videos, 700 courses, like complete courses. And one of the things that I think is mind-blowing, this is not a free service. This is an expensive monthly subscription, like I think it's in the neighborhood of about $70 a month. And maybe it's a little cheaper for students, but it's still an expensive proposition. But as a Gateway student, you have complete access to their entire repository as long as you are active at Gateway. So it behooves you, if you have time to burn, to go in here and check this out. Now, when you come in to sign into this organization, you'll get this, right? So I do already have a LinkedIn account, and I already had an account prior, but what you want to do is sign in with your organization portal. And then you would put in like gtc.edu, and basically it just tells them where the authentication system is. Well, I guess my account has been upgraded. Yay. All right, so thank you very much. All right, and so now you can see that we're in LinkedIn Learning, and that's really what's happened, is they've just basically rebranded everything, but all the content is still there. And as we've said, you know, if you want to like learn about full stack, that's here. You know, so if you want to learn about HTML, or just pick a topic. But I will tell you that I think that These are worthwhile to watch if you have the time to do it. So like if you maybe instead of like brainlessly watching like another episode of like, I don't know, Parks and Rec or something, or The Office on Netflix, maybe you can just pop up a Lynda or LinkedIn Learning video and just let that roll in the background while you do your work. But it's all the little tidbits that you pick up. The fact that these are complete courses, you can see this one's 34 hours long. It's certainly not going to hurt you to go through them. What's also kind of neat about LinkedIn Learning is if you go through a course and complete it, they actually are now giving out badges, which also end up displaying on LinkedIn. And that's one of the benefits of that connection. So you can complete courses. So even if, let's say you graduate and you want to go on and you want to learn another language or another skill, you could come in here and pick that up. And I tell students all the time, if you do that and you earn those badges and you study this stuff, put it on your resume. Now you're going to say, well, that's not formal schooling, right? So it shouldn't be on a resume. Wrong answer. In IT, it's almost impossible to go to school and learn all the skills that IT companies are hiring. Just very simply because the courses don't exist. And even if they do, technology changes. So employers love to see people that know how to self-train. So like what Erin did is she started tutoring last year and everybody's asking her for Python. She's like, oh shoot, I don't know Python. I better learn it really fast. So how does she learn it? This is one of the methods. So she probably very likely came in here and started doing this, right? And then probably started going through, some of the courses here. You learn some of the essentials and you can see how much stuff they have in here. It's insane. And then even though it's not a formal course, you can still add that. I mean, you learn Python, it doesn't matter how you learned it, as long as you learn it. So tell people. All right, let's move on. You can spend a lifetime in that on that service. But I do want to talk about the two major office suites that are available to us here at Gateway. And the first thing, I always try to point people to, and most of you are already aware of this, but attached to our Gateway email accounts, and you guys can see, so it's branded Gateway, but we do run through Gmail. So, Google actually is the back end of, our email system. And there's a long story that goes with that as to why Gateway switched about a decade ago. And it basically, because their Microsoft software failed them in a horribly in a horrible way, like crashed and burned. Basically they lost their whole email system because they ran it themselves, and then they got smart and they switched over to a cloud-based service and chose the whole Google platform. What a lot of people don't know about Google is, Gmail is not their only service, right? So if you're logged in to any of the Gateway Google services, you always have access to the complete suite of Google applications. And this will be similar to what you would get from a personal Gmail account, but you have the enterprise versions of all of them. So for example, what I mean by that is if I had a regular Gmail account, I also get all these tools, so the same ones actually, but not with the same robustness that you would get in an organization. So for example, if I use Google Drive personally, I think they give you maybe 10, 15 gigs of storage. Here at Gateway, my storage is unlimited. I can use as much as I want. Fill up all the Google servers if it's even possible. But that big thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is how comprehensive their tools are. And even this list here, which is very impressive, is just scratching the surface of the applications that they have. And I always astound myself, I end up finding even more, services that I didn't even know that they had. And some of them are specific to education, and some of them are just kind of general use. But I think in terms of what's most important here, I mean, definitely the whole Gmail thing, and then the associated meeting products. So you have Google, what they call Google Meet on the professional level, which is also known as Google Hangouts. So Google Hangouts has kind of I think kind of getting phased out right now with this whole like Zoom being on the rise and whatever. But Google Meet is a comparable product, and we still use it here at Gateway quite a bit. The other major tool is what we call the Google App Suite, and we're thinking more about Google Docs in particular, or what we call their Office Suite. So that would include the Drive, the Docs, the Sheets, the Slides, and then I would argue, Calendar kind of comes into that mix a little bit too. And I'm going to start by actually going to the Drive. And the reason I do this is I think, if I'm working with files and I'm creating things, I store them somewhere. So at Gateway, what I try to do personally is anything that's work related goes into my Google Drive. So I can get to it from any machine, any device, anywhere. As long as I'm connected to the internet, I can get to my files and do my work. And so that's kind of revelatory in a number of different ways. What a lot of people don't know about Google Drive, though, is this, that you can actually install a software component on your computer that allows it to run memory resident and then creates a folder on your machine. So let me just give you an example here. This little icon points to Google Drive. And if you were to load this up as a consumer attached to your regular personal Gmail account, the piece of software is actually called Google Drive that you install. When you're an enterprise client like Gateway is, so meaning a large business entity that pays for the service, we load up the tool called Google Drive File Stream, which creates a drive letter on our machine. So I actually have, if I can pull this window over, right here, a G drive, which is actually the same folders as you see here. So if you look at like what my folder list is here, and if I go into my Google Drive, you'll see it's all the same stuff. And so what that does for me is it gives me a local folder on my own machine that then if I interact with it, so if I just use it like a regular folder, like I do any other folder on my computer, I save files there, I open files from there. But anytime I save, that automatically gets pushed up to Google Drive and I will see it in here. And I think that's a really powerful tool. Now, Google Drive's not the only one that does this, and I think that's really important to note. So the other real notable pieces of software that do this, one is called Dropbox, and frankly, I think it's a much better product than Google Drive. However, it is not free like Google Drive is. So Google Drive will give you 15 gigs free, I believe it is, for private people. Dropbox gives you 2, right? And then when you go beyond that, you have to pay. So I'm always very strategic with it. But I think the Dropbox technology works better. It's faster and more stable. And when you're transferring files and syncing files, sometimes speed is important. I got introduced to that largely through like musical endeavors, because it seems like all musicians and artists tend to share their stuff privately through Dropbox more so than other services. But I think that's a great service. There's also other cloud services as well. Microsoft has their OneDrive, which is attached to Windows. That one I think works well as well. There's also SugarSync and Box and a few others that do kind of that same thing. Where Google and Microsoft kind of leverage it up another notch, though, and this is pretty important, is that capability to actually have an Office suite attached to it. So for example, if I wanted to create a document and I'm sitting on a computer without software installed on it, might even be a Chromebook, right? So how do you create a document if you don't have Microsoft Word available? Well, you log into your Gmail, you go to your little apps icon and either choose Docs, or you go to the Drive, like I am, and then choose a new document. And you can see you can create documents, spreadsheets, slideshows, and a whole lot more, right? So there's all these other things that you can also drop in there, and the ability, if you notice at the bottom of that list where it says connect more apps, where you can bring in third-party tools as well that plug into the browser and will allow you to do certain things. So you can see I have a couple of those things. So mockups and text editor are third-party tools that I have put in there. Not that I use them often, but they're there if I need them. But the top 3 are these, and that's usually the top 3 in any Office suite. And so you can go ahead and create a document, and I think we've demonstrated this. And I think one of the neatest things about working in the Google Drive is like the moment I'm typing, you notice right up here, it's saving, it's already saved. So you never have to worry about losing your work. It's also very easy to go up here and download it in any format that you need. Most of your teachers will ask for the Word format, so that's kind of the universal format. And the reason they do that is because it's easier to grade stuff inside a Blackboard that way, frankly, just so you guys know that. The other thing is that Microsoft Word is the standard in kind of like the business and the academic world still, no matter how popular Google apps are. But that file format is still very important. The other thing I like about this quite a bit is the ability to share the document with others. So like here at Gateway, when we do collaborative meetings like the one we're having now, often we'll work on documents at the same time. And we do that through the sharing mechanism. So you can actually click this little link here. All right, so it wants me to name it. Okay, sure. That's a great name. And then you can actually pick the people that you want to share it with. And then once you do that, and if you give them edit access, you can have multiple people logged into this and typing at the same time on the same document. And that, for me, when I first was introduced to this product, first I was blown away. And mind you, this is, 16 years ago, 17 years ago when I first saw it. Yes, it's been around that long. I was amazed that you could run a proper document editor inside of a browser window. And I was like, holy cow, that's fantastic. That's amazing in itself. And then when you threw in this like killer feature that you could have different people from around the internet, right, tap into that same document and live edit it at the exact same time. I mean, oh my God, what a game changer. And you know what? It took some of the other companies, including Microsoft, quite a while to catch up. Now you can do this with the Microsoft products now too. But I'm going to argue that Google's sharing is still a little bit more elegant in that capacity. So if I ever lean a little more towards a Google product in an Office suite, it's because of that aspect predominantly. I will say otherwise that for as great as Google Docs is, the docs, the spreadsheets, and the slides, I still like the real products better. I like the software, I like the interface better. And frankly, some of it is maybe just training because I've used them for so long. But there are capabilities in these tools that the Microsoft products don't quite have yet. And vice versa. So the spreadsheet document and like slide tool that they have here do not have the same evolved, complicated set of tools that are available in the full-blown Microsoft Office suite. So as much as they try, it's not quite there. But how many times do you really need those tools? That's the flip side of that argument. So if you're typing up a basic document and you can do it here, who cares if you don't have the ability to like mail merge that, with like YouTube with Word and send out like print mailing labels or something. So so you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt, I think, a little bit. All right, so let me kind of show you the Microsoft equivalent of all this. So if you are running Windows 8 or Windows 10, there's a very good chance that when you log into your system, so when you like look at your user account, chances are that user account is based on an email address. So like I log into Windows and I use an email account that's registered with Microsoft. And so I'm logging into my computer and I'm also logging into some of Microsoft's online services at the same time. And I know that in the past, you kind of had a choice. You didn't have to do that. But now with the newer versions of Windows 10, they are really coercing that for a lot of reasons. But you can, aside from like doing the stuff right on your own machine, you can actually go to however you log into any Microsoft service. So let me give you an example here. So a lot of people use like Microsoft's like Live Mail, for example. And I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And I'm signing in with my personal account, not my school account. I do have one for school as well. And the reason I'm doing this is I just want to let you guys know that not only is Google in on this game, but if any of the Microsoft services that you can log into, and once you have your account set up, you have the same kind of thing available. So it dropped me into email, for example, right? But you notice that I have a complete access to an Office suite here. Now, I want you to keep in mind, this is my personal private email account and my personal private Microsoft account. It's not that I'm going to school or anything like that, but they do give you Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all the tools that you see here for free attached to private email accounts. And I don't know if you guys picked this up either, but the private email account I'm using is not a Microsoft account. It's a personal account. And I think that, you know, it's kind of fascinating that Microsoft really gives it out for free too. Now, the versions of that's not what I meant to click on, sorry. The versions of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint that are here are not the same ones in terms of the full feature set that you get from launching the regular software. However, it's really, really close, and it certainly is on the same level as Google Docs in terms of how it works. Now, you can see the interface is, you know, it looks not too much different from working a regular version of Office on your machine. Once it gets loaded up in the browser, you know, you get the toolbars that you're familiar with. And then, you know, the other neat aspect of this, of course, is that you also have the option here to open it in the full desktop app if you have it installed, which I do. Okay, so let's just say that this is one way you can get it. As Gateway students, though, you guys should always be aware that you can log into your My Gateway, and you can also access Office 365, and you notice LinkedIn Learning is there too, from this interface. Now, I'm going to click through on this interface, and I'm going to be logging in, and now you can see that it's asking me which account I'm signing in with. So the short URL for accessing this, and hopefully it doesn't ask me to change my password or something. All right, yeah, see, I always hate these like extra security steps. Thank you, browser, for saving my password. I don't know if you guys do that, but I get so... Okay, you know, the funny thing is I just did this the other day. All right, I'm going to cancel out. But here I am inside Office 365. So you notice that there's a little bit of a difference when you're actually logging in to office.com. So if you want to log into Office 365, you go to office.com. You might have to authenticate your account, but I believe that the way that they have it set up now is that if you have a gateway issued email address, you're kind of like automatically in. Okay, so you might have to register, you know, set up your passwords and stuff, but then you'll have access to this. Now, once again, you're going to see all the same products that are available, including a couple of extras. So right now we're using a Zoom, for example, and Microsoft has their product called Teams, which has some of the same capabilities as Zoom and a whole lot more. You'll also see the OneNote products, including a shared OneNote, and then there's other weird tools that you maybe never have heard of, like SharePoint and Sway and Forms. And then you can click this All Apps thing and see that, oh my God, they have even more. And so like Google, they have like a ton of like all these apps that they give you for free as part of your Office 365 subscription. And I would encourage you to explore and check these out. A lot of these will run in the browser. Okay, so you can, you know, just use Word and Excel right in the browser and then open up in the app if you need to. They also have the capabilities of doing live document sharing, although it's a little more complicated on the Microsoft side, but once you get everything hooked up right, you can do the same thing you can do with Google Docs. So very, very cool. The other thing that you can do here that you can't do with the Google Docs stuff is sometimes you'll run into situations where there's a more powerful feature you need to access. So like that would probably be more common like with Excel, I think, than with Word. So like my data analytics students, I often say, well, you need a full-blown version of Excel to do some of your work because you can't do all of the formulas in the browser, unfortunately. So you can choose this install option here where it actually takes an installable version of the Microsoft Office suite and allows you to install it, folks, on up to 5 machines. Isn't that cool? Up to 5 installs off of this. So if you have, you know, a phone, a tablet, a desktop, a laptop, and your cousin or whatever, okay, not your cousin, somebody in the family, you can install, you know, Microsoft Office on all of those machines, and you can tie them into the same accounts, free for all Gateway students. That service is typically not free for private individuals. They might get like a free trial period with the purchase of a new laptop, but that expires quick, and then they want you to pay money. And some people do, you know, some people do want to have that. But my thinking is, if Microsoft's giving it away because we're in school, hey, let's take it. Now, all the storage that's attached to this is either going to be on your OneDrive or a SharePoint server, depending on how your organization is arranged. But once again, OneDrive, like Google Drive, has this capability where it puts a folder on your machine. And you can see I have two of them. I have one for personal and one for Gateway. So these are two cloud storage services. Throw in Dropbox, that's another cloud storage service. And then I have Google Drive, another cloud storage service. And those aren't the only ones. I also have my Creative Cloud does the same thing, and one other service that I run. So I run, how many is that? 6, you know, cloud storage mechanisms that I have loaded on this just one laptop. Now, you guys might think I'm a little crazy for doing that, but what happens is whenever I'm actively working on a certain type of thing, so like I put personal stuff here, I put Microsoft personal stuff for, or school stuff here, you know, other personal ones when I'm doing anything, you know, private projects, I usually work there, school stuff goes here, you know, etc. And anytime I'm working, I actively store my stuff in those repositories. And then if somebody happens to steal my laptop, you know what? I'm fine. You know, all my files are out in the cloud. Okay, so maybe they have the laptop, you know, whatever, but they're not going to be able to get rid of my files, you know, because they still have to log in and all that stuff. All right, so I think that that's pretty helpful. But I think what happens, you know, with many people, you know, they have maybe know one or the other, but not both. I think it's really good to know both. Gateway is really good evidence of that, because you know, when we do collaborative work at Gateway, we use the Google App Suite. When we are working on, and if I'm doing like proper document editing and I really want to format it nice, or make a nice looking PowerPoint or whatever, nice spreadsheet, the installed version of those products are always going to be better than anything that Microsoft has online and anything that the Google App Suite has online. The advantage, of course, of running the stuff online is that you don't have to install anything. So if you have an older computer where you don't have a lot of disk space or processing capabilities, running applications in your browser is really kind of a great workaround to keep an old machine still working and productive. All right. I do want to touch upon one topic that we've been kind of hitting upon, and I was hoping that one of our classmates would be here with this, but today, but he's not. But I am going to bring in a resource here, and so what I'm going to do is I have to pull it in from a different class. Now, normally I don't share this link in this class until later, and the reason I'm bringing it up now is because it's been kind of a topic of conversation, and what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to provide a link for right now. So for those of you that are here in the session, I'm going to chat over a link. All right. So and then I'm going to go ahead and open this link. So here's I want you to look at that URL. All right. So this is a Microsoft site, and we're connecting to one of Microsoft's most important services. And I say it's one of their most important services because it's like their biggest growth area, and everything is moving here eventually. So when you think about how like the Google stuff works, I think what's fascinating about it is they've always kind of done it cloud-based. So everything's kind of like running on a server somewhere, and you just access it through your browser. Fantastic. Microsoft is a little late to the game, frankly. So even though they had Microsoft Office and a lot of stuff out in the cloud, they didn't really use the cloud as a platform for delivering applications. Not real heavily until this last decade, basically. their cloud platform is called Azure. So Azure is kind of like this, kind of like a fuzzy concept in a sense, because really what it is a collection of super powerful servers all over the planet with incredible bandwidth and storage capabilities, and people use those machines to deliver all sorts of content. Now, as students, you guys all get a free account. So if you follow this link, I already have an account, but if you don't, they have this little FAQ here, and you can actually create an account. So basically what you need is your a Microsoft account related to school. If you already have a personal one, it's not going to give you access to their complete set of stuff. These are actually very, very expensive services. I think base level Azure services start at like $300 a month. So it's not like really for typical consumers. Nobody would spend that kind of money just to do what you do here. But you do get a free account as a student, so you should be able to come in here, register with your school email account. So it looks at that mail.gtc.edu as a domain that it accepts. And once you have that account active, you now have the capability to sign in. You see how it gives me the option to do both. You know, and it keeps bugging me on this step. And I'll tell you, I've gone through these steps multiple times in the last few days. And the ones I'm referring to is this, you know, I've done the authentication several times and I don't know why it just keeps bugging me for it. So there's some little glitch with it. All right, so here we are. Now it's dropping us into the Azure environment. And because I've signed in before, boy, a little cumbersome, right? Because I've signed in before, it's going to drop me right into the education area. And I'm hoping that when you guys sign in, that's where it puts you. If for some reason you don't end up in an area that says education, what you should do is take that word education, drop it up here in the title bar, and then it'll take you to this section. One of the concerns that I have with Azure is if you end up in the home, you know, area where you can do, all right, so this is the area we want to be in, but you can see here they have all these different things that you can do online, and it's crazy what you can do here. You can deploy virtual servers and computers, create databases, websites, applications. Oh my God, it's crazy what you have, but it's not cheap. And a lot of the services will have like a free month trial, and then the bill kicks in, and the bill is usually in the hundreds of dollars range. Great if you're a big organization, not so good if you're an individual. But in the education section, the main reason that we have this is to be able to have access to certain things that we otherwise don't get. So Microsoft does give us Office, right? But that's done in a separate mechanism. And the reason they do that is Microsoft Office is still Microsoft's big cash cow. So in other words, they make a good portion of their money from selling Office, the subscriptions and the software, and from selling Windows. Okay, but they have so much other software, and I think that it's kind of amazing when you start to look at some of the software packages that are available here for free. So if you click on that list, you will see all these super high-end enterprise level software things that are available, and some of them you're like, what the hell even is that? And that's okay, you'll figure it out after a while, but you'll see all the different versions of professional grade software and services. Now you see I'm getting to the section that says Windows 10, right? And this is where one of our questions was coming from and has been for a while. So they do, Microsoft does give away copies of Windows 10 for educational purpose for free. And I do want to point out, if you keep scrolling down this list, they still have Windows 8.1 out there as well, and in all the more recent versions of the Windows Server software on top of it. In the old days, before they ported all this stuff over to Azure, they would give you access to every version of Windows that was ever made, which is kind of neat and kind of scary at the same time. And now they've kind of like whittled it down so you can only get Windows 8.1 or Windows 10 here. Now, if you are interested in running a better version of Windows without spending any money, here's the $1 million tip, folks. First, I would have you go to any like file window like this and figure out what you are actually currently running on your computer. So if you go bring up your File Explorer, come over to the left side here and where it says this PC, or I think on Windows 8 it says computer or my computer or something like that. Right click that and then choose properties. And what this does is it brings up our system properties. And what we're looking at is this little piece of information up here. Which version of Windows are you running? Now you can see that on my personal machine, and this is not a school machine, right? I'm running Windows 10 Professional. For most consumers, like in other words, if you bought your laptop at like, Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Amazon, probably, you are buying what they call a consumer machine, right? And usually consumer machines are loaded up with Windows 10 Home or Windows 10 Standard. I forget what they call it now. Now there's a difference between the versions of Windows. The professional versions of Windows have certain features that are not available to users of the Home Edition. Most notably are things like file encryption, high-end networking services. I'm trying to think of a couple of other things. Proper virtualization software is another one. And I know there's a real key one I'm forgetting right now, but that's kind of how it goes when we talk about this stuff. But anyhow, a remote desktop is another one. But the professional versions have features that normally a regular consumer does not have access to. So as people in IT programs who are learning to be aspiring professionals, when you go out into the field, there's no company that's going to hire you and sit you down in front of Windows 10 Home. They're not going to do that in an organization. They want you on the professional version of the software. Now, as a student, how do you get that without paying the money? Well, here's how you do it, folks, and this is the fun part. So if you come into this list and you find the education version of the software, now you got to be kind of careful because they have all these like side deployment kits and whatever, including the IoT core, which would run on a Raspberry Pi, or an Arduino, I always say that wrong. So if you have a Raspberry Pi, you can load Windows 10 on it. And here's where it is right here. You can download the software for free. But for us, we're looking at the education version. We don't want the N version. The N version is intended for lightweight machines, like I don't know. I'm thinking of like the sub $300 laptop basically would run that. So you'd want the education version. And what you'll see here is that the education version not only has all the features of the professional version, it even has additional features that normally are not available in Pro even. So they give you every possible tool in education for free. And in the old days, I think the only version that was above it was Enterprise, and now basically education is equivalent to Enterprise Windows. And all you really need to activate Windows, and this is the fun part, is the license key that goes with it. So if you hit this button, and I'm going to go ahead and do that, you'll see it pop up on my screen is my key. Now I'm going to kind of cancel out of that really quick. I don't want anybody borrowing my license key. But once you have that key, you can copy that key and save it. And if you are running a machine with Windows 10, you go back to this same system screen. And depending on which version you're running, you're going to either see a button somewhere here that says, upgrade to a better version of Windows, right? And of course, you only see that if you have a not great version of Windows, like Home. Or you come down here and you just click change product key, put in your new number, and then by putting in that new number, Windows recognizes it's like, oh, you want to turn on all these features, okay. And then it unlocks them all on your machine. And here's the kind of the beauty of Windows 10, and it's been like this for Windows for a while, is whenever you get Windows on a machine, it already has all the features there. All you really have to do is provide that key to unlock them. There's a little bit of installing that goes on in the background when you do that, but if Windows is already up and running, I think it's like a 15 to 20 minute process, maybe at best, and then you are moved up to that better version of Windows. Is this something that you really need to do? And frankly, I'm going to say for some of you, no, you might not need this at all. And is it smart to do mid-semester? I'll say it depends. If you are somewhat tech savvy and let's say you've installed an operating system before, like Windows, I'd say go for it. It's not that hard. You know, if your machine already supports Windows 10, it should be just fine. However, if you are not super tech savvy and feel like you need support doing something like this, I would refrain from doing it mid-semester, because the last thing we want is for you to do this and then all of a sudden have access to nothing, because you get stuck in the upgrade process and you don't have a backup computer. So tread those waters carefully. Now, because this all operates through Microsoft Azure, you are not going to get support from Gateway's tech department. You know, so they're like, this is your computer, this is your version of Windows. All right, call Microsoft. That's what they're going to tell you. And so I always tell people, tread lightly unless you feel confident in doing something like this. But it is there for the taking, and it's important to note that it is free. And once again, really all you need is that license key. And once you have that license key, save that somewhere. It does not expire when you stop being a student. That license key will live on. So any of the software that you see listed here, and you start to think about what some of these things cost, and I think it's pretty amazing that they just kind of they just put it out there. And some of it is like server level kind of stuff. And you know, so for example, if you guys carry on in your degree, you'll probably end up installing SQL Server at some point, which is a big database tool. But here it's free. Also a very expensive piece of software. Visual Studio, which we will talk about later inside this course. But there's the repository that people have been looking for. I will be adding a little posting to our course shell when we get and probably revisit this topic a little bit. But for right now, I think this is you know, a good bit to bite off and chew on for a little bit, just to see that this is available. Right, I'm going to stop the recording at this point, and then I'm going to switch us over to Web 1.